The door closed behind him with a soft click that seemed to echo through my entire body. He stood there, not moving, just watching me with those dark eyes that always made me feel like I was being assessed, valued, desired. I couldn't breathe. My back pressed against the wall, my heart hammering so hard I was certain he could hear it. His lips curved into a knowing smile as he took one step closer. "Ready to settle your debt, Ashley?" he asked, voice low and steady. I nodded, unable to find my voice, as his hand reached up to brush a strand of hair from my face. A simple touch, but it sent electricity racing across my skin. I knew what was coming next, and despite everything, I wanted it. Before we dive any deeper, please take a quick second to like this video and hit subscribe. Your support helps this channel grow, and you'll never miss my next story. Now let's continue with where this all began. 3 months without work had drained my savings completely. Each morning, I'd wake up in this beautiful San Francisco apartment that I could no longer afford, staring at the ceiling, counting down the days until inevitable eviction. Interior design jobs had dried up in the economic downturn, and my credit cards were maxed out. The rent was 3 months overdue, and Mr. Morgan, my typically distant landlord, had been sending increasingly firm notices. When the knock finally came, I opened the door expecting formal eviction papers. Instead, there he stood, tall, impeccably, dressed in a charcoal suit that emphasized his broad shoulders. He wasn't what I'd expected when I first signed the lease. Not some faceless property management company, but a successful real estate developer with eyes that seemed to see right through me. "Ms. Williams," he said, his voice all business, "I think we need to discuss your situation." I invited him in, embarrassment heating my cheeks as I cleared design samples from the couch. "Mr. Morgan, I know I'm behind, but I just need more time. The industry is—" "3 months, Ashley," he interrupted, using my first name with a familiarity that made me pause. "That's quite significant." He walked to my floor-to-ceiling windows, taking in the view of the bay that had made me fall in love with this place. His reflection in the glass showed a thoughtful expression, not the anger I'd expected. "Beautiful, isn't it?" he murmured. "That's why I keep this property. For the view." I swallowed hard. "I've been applying everywhere. If you could just give me another month—" He turned and something in his gaze had shifted. "I have another solution to propose." The way he looked at me then made my breath catch. This wasn't just about business anymore. I'd always noticed how attractive he was, the salt and pepper at his temples, the confidence in his movements, but I'd kept it professional. Now, something else entirely was happening. "What kind of solution?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. He moved closer, not touching me, but close enough that I could smell his cologne. "One night, Ashley. One night with me, and we clear the slate." My heart stopped, then raced ahead double time. I should have been offended, should have shown him the door. Instead, I felt a rush of heat spread through me, unexpected and overwhelming. "You can't be serious," I said, but my voice betrayed me, trembling slightly. His eyes never left mine. "Completely serious, your choice. No pressure, no consequences if you refuse." He stepped back, giving me space. "I'll return tomorrow evening for your answer." After he left, I paced the apartment for hours. I should have been disgusted, but instead, his offer played on repeat in my mind, each time sending that same rush of warmth through my core. I couldn't deny the attraction that had been building since our first meeting. And if I was being honest with myself, there was something thrilling about the proposition, something that had nothing to do with rent and everything to do with the way he'd looked at me. When he returned the next evening, I'd made my decision. I opened the door wearing the one designer dress I hadn't yet sold, my hair loose around my shoulders. His eyes darkened as they took me in. "Yes," I said simply. That's how I found myself in his penthouse that Saturday night, a glass of expensive wine in my hand, watching the sunset paint the bay in shades of gold and crimson. I expected to feel cheap, degraded even, but instead I felt a strange power in my choice, in the way his eyes followed me as I moved around the space. "Beautiful place," I said, running my fingers along a marble countertop. "I designed it myself," he replied, coming to stand behind me, not touching, just near. "Before I built properties, I studied architecture." I turned to face him, our bodies inches apart. "Why me?" I asked. "You could have just evicted me." His hand came up, fingers tracing the line of my jaw with feather-light pressure. "Because from the moment you walked into the viewing, I haven't been able to stop thinking about you." The honesty in his voice broke something open inside me. I set down my glass and stepped closer, eliminating the space between us. Then stop thinking, I whispered, and start doing. His kiss wasn't tentative. It was consuming, confident, his hands finally touching me the way I'd been imagining since he'd made his offer. I melted into him, all thoughts of debt and obligation dissolving into pure sensation. He lifted me with surprising strength, carrying me to his bedroom where floor-to-ceiling windows offered the city as our audience, lights twinkling like stars below us. What followed wasn't what I'd expected. There was no rush, no sense of transaction. He took his time, his fingers and lips exploring every inch of me with reverent attention. I arched against him, my body responding with an intensity that left me breathless. He seemed to know exactly how to touch me, where to linger, how to build the pressure until I was gasping his name. James, I breathed, using his first name for the first time. Please. His hands settled at my waist, positioning me beneath him. I felt his form pressed against me, solid and warm. When we finally connected, it was with slow, deliberate movements that had me gripping his shoulders, my nails leaving crescent marks on his skin. The rhythm built between us, tension coiling tighter with each motion until everything shattered. Wave after wave of warmth crashed through me, leaving me trembling and breathless. As we lay there afterward, the city lights casting shadows across the sheets, he traced lazy patterns on my back. I want to see you again, he murmured against my hair. I propped myself up on one elbow, studying his face. This wasn't just about the rent, was it? He smiled, that same confident curve of lips. The rent was an excuse. I've wanted you from day one. I should have left then, taken the cleared debt, and walked away. Instead, I found myself returning to his penthouse the following weekend, and the one after that. Each time, we explored each other more deeply, discovering what made us both come undone. I told myself it was just physical, just a mutual attraction being satisfied, but something else was growing between us, something I wasn't ready to name. A month into our arrangement, he invited me to dinner. Not at his penthouse, but at an exclusive restaurant overlooking the bay. I wore another of my designer dresses, saved from the necessity of selling it thanks to our arrangement. He looked at me like I was the only woman in the room, his hand resting possessively on my lower back as we were led to our table. I have a proposition for you, he said after our wine was poured. My stomach tightened. Another one? His fingers covered mine on the table. I have associates, successful men, discreet, respectful, who would pay handsomely for an evening of your company. I pulled my hand away. You want to loan me out? Like some kind of possession? No, he said firmly. I'm offering you an opportunity. These are powerful men, Ashley. Men who can help restart your career. And yes, they find you as intriguing as I do. So I'm supposed to be with them the way I've been with you? He leaned forward. Only if you want to. Only what you're comfortable with. You're in complete control. I should have been outraged, should have thrown my wine in his face and walked out. Instead, I felt that same unexpected heat from when he'd first made his proposition. How much? I asked, my voice steadier than I felt. His smile was knowing. Enough to cover 6 months' rent, per night. The figure he named made my head spin. It would not only clear my debts but give me breathing room to rebuild my portfolio, maybe even start my own small design firm. And beneath the practical considerations was something else. A dark thrill at the thought of being desired so intensely, of having that kind of power. One night, I said finally. I'll meet them once, and then I decide if there's a second time. His fingers brushed mine again. Of course. That's how, a week later, I found myself rising in the private elevator to his penthouse, wearing a black dress that left little to the imagination. My heart pounded, a mix of anticipation and nerves making my skin hypersensitive. When the doors opened, I was greeted by the sound of low conversation and the clink of glasses. 4 men turned to look at me as I entered, all in their 40s, all successful, judging by their watches and the confident way they carried themselves. James came forward, his hand finding the small of my back, a reassuring pressure. Gentlemen, he said, this is Ashley. The evening began with drinks and conversation that was surprisingly engaging. These weren't just random wealthy men. They were intelligent, accomplished in fields ranging from tech to international finance. One, Michael, had a quiet intensity that reminded me of James. Another, David, had a charm that put me instantly at ease. The third, Robert, was more reserved, watching me with thoughtful eyes. The fourth, Alexander, had a playful confidence that made me laugh despite my nerves. As the night progressed, the energy shifted. Glances lingered longer, touches became more frequent. A hand at my waist, fingers brushing as a glass was passed. The conversation took on deeper undertones, filled with double meanings and purposeful pauses. When James suggested we move to the more comfortable seating area, I knew what was coming next. I caught his eye, giving a slight nod. His smile in return sent warmth spreading through me. Michael was the first to approach, his movements unhurried as he sat beside me. "May I?" he asked, his hand hovering near my face. I nodded, and his fingers traced my jawline just as James had that first night. The similarity made me wonder if they'd discussed me, and the thought sent an unexpected thrill through me. His lips met mine, gentle at first, then more insistent. I felt another presence behind me. David, his hand settling on my shoulders, massaging gently. The contrast of sensations, Michael's kiss growing deeper, David's hands working down my back, made my breath catch. I opened my eyes to find James watching, his gaze dark with a mixture of possession and approval. Our eyes locked as Michael's lips moved to my neck, as David's hands slid lower. There was something intoxicating about being the center of such focused attention, about knowing that James had arranged this all for me, because of his desire for me. What followed was unlike anything I'd experienced. Each man took his time, each touch building on the last until my skin felt electric, hypersensitive to every contact. Robert, the quiet one, surprised me with his intensity, his focus unwavering. As he drew responses from me I didn't know I was capable of. Alexander's playfulness translated to a teasing approach that had me laughing one moment and gasping the next. And through it all, James was there, sometimes participating, sometimes just watching with that same dark approval that made me feel both vulnerable and powerful. When he finally moved between my legs, the familiar weight of him grounding me amidst the overwhelming sensations, I felt completely undone. His movements matched my rhythm perfectly, his gaze never leaving mine as warmth built between us, wave after wave, until I cried out, trembling in his arms. Later, as I lay in James's bed, the others having left with promises of future engagements, he traced lazy patterns on my back. "Regrets?" he asked quietly. I considered the question seriously. "No," I said finally. "Is that strange?" He chuckled, the sound reverberating through his chest under my ear. "Not at all. You're discovering something about yourself, Ashley, something powerful." I propped myself up to look at him. "And what's that?" "That desire doesn't have to follow conventional rules. That pleasure can be found in unexpected places." His fingers traced my lower lip. "That you're extraordinary. In..." That moment, I realized I stood at a crossroads. I could walk away now, take the money, restart my career, and pretend this had never happened. Or I could embrace this new path, this unexpected journey of discovery that had begun with a desperate agreement and had transformed into something else entirely. As dawn broke over the bay, painting the sky in pinks and golds, I made my choice. And as James pulled me closer, his lips finding mine with renewed hunger, I knew I'd chosen right. Have you ever made a decision that completely changed the course of your life? One moment where you went against everything you thought you knew about yourself? Tell me about your unexpected turning points in the comments below. I read every single one. And if you enjoyed this journey, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell so you never miss what comes next. Because trust me, my stories are just getting started. See you in the next one.